Hi everyone, you are Reddit expose there, enjoy watching.
I close the door without slamming it. I just push it with my pawn and catch the light click of the latch. I installed a new door closer yesterday to stop living like in a drama. It goes away and claps. Now the door closes the way I want it to. Calmly. The keys are clinking quieter than usual. There's sand on the mat after yesterday's snow. The same sand that the city lavishes on the sidewalks when cars turn Lincoln Avenue into a gray mess. I put the bags from Trader Joe's on the table, pull out eggs, greens, and a pack of frozen ravioli for a rainy day, and only then do I realize that morning is still behaving like us, even though I have been here for a long time. Her name is Emily. We lived together for 2 years in Lakeview, in a red brick house where the batteries are silent and hissing like a kettle. We met cordially at a coffee trailer near Logan Square. At that time, I was working as a product designer in a small company on Roscoe, making interfaces for warehouse accounting. She was an assistant director at the Independent Theater near Vicar Park and worked part-time shifts at the Mises Box Cinema. Our calendars were worse friends than we were, but at first it was the bicycles and Sunday markets that saved everything. Then the later began. Her rehearsals went into the night. My releases went into endless Friday. We started saying let's wait out the season, and the season in Chicago is never short. It wasn't a cinematic ending, not screams or give me back my books. We were sitting in Lula's, sharing an omelet, and Emily said, "If I stay, it will be out of fear. And I don't want to do you a terrible kindness." I reply, "And I don't want to be the person you're afraid of." We put things in boxes, argue only about the Turk. I took it and the carpet, I left it to her. And on the day of the move, for the first time I caught myself thinking that closing the door without slamming is more important than coming up with the right words. Now I have a room on the ground floor in Avondale. There is more light than in the past, and the walls remember less of other people's conversations. On Saturdays, I go to the laundry on Armitage, the one that smells of powder and toast from the cafe next door. The devices there are already cashless, but the habit of keeping a roll of quarters in your pocket remains. Someone still has no card attached. Someone just has a dead battery. Today I screwed on the door closer. Chance ironically pulled up the plot for me. I went into Jewelosco to get some light bulbs and salt and saw Emily at the cat litter rack. She had the same short haircut, a new down jacket, and circles under her eyes that couldn't be hidden with concealer. We noticed each other at the same time and hovered a meter away as if the pandemic had returned. And 6 feet was the law again. "Hi," I said. "Hi," she said. "Do you live here now?" "Around the corner." "And you?" "Nearby. On Kimball." "A temporary option. We're moving closer to the theater in the spring." She shrugged her shoulder, as if adjusting an invisible backpack. "How are you?" "It's fine. I work less at night. I walk more." And I was surprised how grown-up and boring it sounded. She nodded and smiled out of the corner of her mouth, recognizably, to the point of muscle memory. "I'm trying to sleep too. We also got a cat, so." She held up the bag of filler. "His name is Rico, but in fact he is a man in a cat costume." We stood like two people who weren't sure if they were pulling a thread or cutting it. I suggested, "Would you like some coffee? There's still an Epsento on the corner." "5 minutes," she said, "and I have to go to the rehearsal." We each took a paper cup and went to the window. Through the glass, buses, wet shoes, someone's packages from Target. Emily said that the theater had received a small grant and they were putting on a play about night shifts. The actors work as baristas during the day, rehearse in the evening, and play at night. I told him that I had joined the support team. Less hype, more repairs, and this is probably the most adult choice I have made. We dispensed with the "do you remember" and "what if" questions. I noticed that she had an old scar on her arm, the one from the knife she cut into the pumpkin the day before Halloween. This detail went into the collage of memory without pain. "It's good to see you," I said on the way out. It was the pure truth without reverse gear. "Me too," she replied. "And you've become quieter." In a good way. I wanted to joke that I have a door like this now, but I restrained myself. He just nodded. After this meeting, everything, oddly enough, became simpler. On Saturdays, I began to follow the same route. Coffee at the trailer in Logan Square, eggs at the market, laundry. I brought a transparent pocket and a stapler to the laundry room, attached it above the refill machine, and put other people's little notes in there. A year ago, I would have definitely subscribed, posted, and organized an initiative. Now I just stuck a cardboard box on top. If you don't have enough, take it. If it's too much, leave it. A week later, there was a roll of quarters with a blue rubber band in my pocket and a child's note. I returned 3 because I found it. On Monday at work, the manager sent, "I need a quick fix before the evening." Previously, I would have rushed out and stay until night. Now I wrote, "I'll do the MVP today, the rest tomorrow. It's important for me to leave at 7. No one died, the product didn't fall apart, and I managed to get to Half Acre in the evening for a meeting of friends. Conversations about the Cubs, about rent, about the fact that it's raining in Seattle too, so we're no worse. I walked home because the spa type of wine in my head had become slow. Sometimes Emily popped up in the city like a familiar sign. The playbill of the Damon Theater, a story from the dressing room, a fragment of her laughter in the empty music box at the morning screening. I didn't unsubscribe or catch it. Memory has stopped being a dog on a leash. It has become a cat that kneels on its own when it is cold. One night, Meg, a mutual friend of ours, texted me on Messenger. The one who always brings more salad bowls to parties. Em is moving to Euclid. She's got a problem with the door. You like to fix things. Can you look at the door closer? I said I'd ask. If not, it's okay too. I stared at the message for a long time. In another reality, I would have jumped into a taxi as the only night at the nearest entrance. In today's article I wrote, "I can do it tomorrow at 6. If she's okay, I'll come. Put a new one." And that's it. In response, I received a thank you and a smiley face with a screwdriver. The next day I came with a box and tools. The apartment smelled of paint and cinnamon. Emily managed to bake even when there was no time. We greeted each other like people who shared a common address, and now everyone has their own. I took off the old door closer, tried on a new one, and explained how to set the closing speed. We didn't talk much, only she asked, "Why are you doing this?" "Because you asked her, Meg. And because I like it when the doors close quietly." She smiled, the same one, with the left corner higher than the right. "I'm really glad that she searched for the word, didn't break apart." "Me too," I said, tightening the last screw. We hugged briefly at parting, like people who have heavy boxes in their hands. In the hallway, I pressed the handle, and the door opened softly, without a bang, as it should be. Then life began to take shape from small, but elastic details. I made an appointment with a psychologist at the clinic on Montrose, sliding scale, twice a month. We talked about how I had been confusing caring and control for decades, how everything is fine shut-down conversations, and how I hid in my work from I don't know. And how do I manage to choose enough instead of maximum now? On Fridays, I'd arrange a half-hour of silence for myself. I'd turn off my laptop, put my phone screen down, and walk along the river to the Kimball Bridge. Sometimes I met a woman there with a dog in funny shoes, not Emily, but someone else. We exchanged nods like passwords. Yes, they live here too. In the spring, I did another funny thing. I bought a regular door closer for the school around the corner. The entrance was always banging, and the night guard complained that the children woke up during the quiet hour during the day. I came to the director with the box, said, "Can I just hang it up?" He waved his hand. "If it's not about the budget, do it." In the evening, the guard wrote to the district chat, "Now he's not knocking. Thank you for who made it." I put a heart on it and didn't write "it's me," not out of modesty, but simply because the result is more important than the authorship. And yes, I got into the habit of making soup for 2 on Saturdays and calling someone alone. Sometimes Meg comes, sometimes the neighbor on the stairs, who knows everything about baseball and nothing about salt. Sometimes it's nobody, and I eat 2 days in a row, and that's okay too. Sometimes, when I come back late, the city does what it does best. It talks in drafts. I hear "this is damn" doors closing, and I reply to myself, "See you later." I go up to my floor, close the door barely audibly, put the kettle on and put a new small object on the table, a hook, a picture, a note, which makes the house a little more mine. Emily lives her life 10 stops away. Sometimes our paths intersect, more often they don't. And this, it seems, is the best sign that the story did not die, but ended correctly, without a bang, without loud credits, just a door that closes softly. And I, who have learned to leave on time, and come to. I bought another door closer this week, for the laundry room. Don't ask, it just seems like it will come in handy there too. We met at the climbing wall on Ballard. I came with a subscription to visits for the price of one, which a colleague threw me, and she was looking for a partner for insurance. The schedule said, "Welcome to newbies," And there were bottles of liquid magnesia and wet wipes at the counter for a better workout, as if it were a relationship support service. Her name was Erin. On the test fall, I braked too abruptly and pulled the rope so that the instructor grunted, "It's okay, hero. Just don't tear up the urban infrastructure." Erin smiled, tightened the knob more carefully, and said, "Never mind, we'll get used to it." That evening, we went out into the wet spotlight over Shilshole, bought a taco fish on the corner, and discussed why people in Seattle keep wet jackets like a second passport. I wrote interfaces at a startup near Pioneer Square, where Slack never slept and the release tomorrow always had a twin brother, burning today. Erin worked as an admissions nurse at Harborview, night shifts, the metallic taste of coffee from the vending machine, and the habit of speaking clearly when everyone is unwell. Our schedules only coincided at dawn, so we started living on strange hours, her good morning my good night, walking along an empty beach on Alki after her shifts, brunching on 3 days at Victrola, where the barista knew I needed a filter without question. It took a year for us to rent a 1-bedroom apartment near Green Lake, croquet parquet, heating from an old block in the corner, windows that cried in winter as if they were supposed to have a vacation. We took a cat to Seattle Humane, striped, impudent, named Pixel. On Saturdays, we dragged a sleeping bag or a burner from the Ray, and swore that during the season we would at least reach the Snoqualmie Pass. In fact, they were enough for 2 overnight stays at Rattlesnake Lake and 1 shameful U-turn at the beginning of the trail on Mount. See? The rain beat in my face, and my shoe burst. We were laughing, really and evenly. The problems came quietly, with "let's do it later" and "I'm not taking it out." They made Sunday Tuesday out of Sunday at night, and fragmented pieces out of sleep. I started the growing by leaps and bounds stage at work, sprints, metrics, DMOS, and the presentation was buzzing in my head all the time. We've learned how to exchange logistics better than feelings. The general calendar included add water to the cat, internet bill, top up Orca, but not stop, we need to talk. Erin began applying for the nurse practitioner program at UN in a couple of other states just to see. I scratched the back of my head and said, "Great, even though how do we live?" Stuck under my tongue. In winter, we got caught up. Once a week we quarreled not about the essence, but about the taint on the surface. Who forgot to buy trash bags? Why is the thermostat at 72 again? Why did I order delivery at the peak, even though there was everything in the refrigerator for pasta? I remember one evening in detail, a brown rug, the howl of rain on the window, a cat trampling on boxes. "You're always on the phone," Erin said. I opened my mouth to reply, "Do you always sleep when I'm awake?" But I said, "You're right." It didn't help. In the spring, Erin received a letter, a scholarship to a program in Portland, some classes online, some on campus, trips 2 or 3 times a week. "Shall we try?" I nodded, reasonably. The trips started, and there were even fewer conversations. We lived as neighbors with different shifts. Pixel was marking our territory louder than the 2 of us. We didn't break up cinematically. Saturday, rain in a thin net, the Sea Wolf Bakery smells of cinnamon and patience. Erin is holding a paper baguette, and I'm holding a cardboard glass. "I feel like I'm dragging to lights," she said. "And in the second one, I'm asking you to wait all the time. It's not fair." I nodded. "And it's not fair for you to wait for me to become a human again." We agreed. A month for fees, a half deposit, a Pixel with me her nights and trips are not for a cat. In the evening, Venmo was opened, the general shopping list was closed, warm sweaters were put in boxes, and silence. For the first few weeks, I counted the time with link announcements. Next station is Roosevelt. I was not pushed into therapy in West Town, but brought in, twice a month, a sliding payment scale and a closet with white noise that said "get some sleep" in the background. My therapist and I made a map of the week, where not to take a laptop sofa, where to drink water everywhere, where to say no without a presentation in our own letters. I stopped dragging Slack to bed and set a rule. After 8 o'clock in the evening, offline, except for the fire. The world didn't collapse, the release happened, and for the first time I exhaled without making excuses. Erin sometimes wrote dry, good messages from Portland, photos of bridges in the fog, a recipe for soup, a complaint about a late-night call from practice fire alarm at 4 in the morning. I answered briefly, without asking, maybe. One day she flew to Seattle for a day. We met at the conservatory in Volunteer Park, where it's always wet and everything survives. She looked like she made decisions every day and learned not to split them into pros and cons. We walked around the greenhouse, paused at the succulent section, where a sign asked "Do not touch." "Thank you for keeping Pixel," she said. "He seems to like your feed according to schedule in the morning and according to conscience in the evening system." I laughed. We embraced not as old lovers, but as people who still have a common story, but no common agenda. In the summer, I started volunteering at the Ballard Food Bank on Friday mornings, distributing greens, stacking boxes, and occasional muscle tremors from normal fatigue. There, I learned to keep quiet properly, so that it would be easy for people around you. On Wednesdays, I drove to Monroe Harbor before dawn, drank thermos coffee and listened to the city reassemble itself from the fog. On Sundays, he took Pixel to the vet, and the doctor said with a smile that this citizen had clearly had a good night's sleep. I tried to go to Mount C again. I reached the first boulder, turned around earlier. Not because I couldn't, but because I don't want to today. This is also a skill. One day, we ran into Erin at TCC on Fremont. She caught me looking between the cereal department and the local honey stand. We stood 1.5 meters away. The pandemic is gone. The habit remains. "You've become calmer," she said. "So are you," I said. We exchanged news. She no longer takes 3 nights in a row. She learns to say no to senior doctors when it comes to her boundaries. I changed the project to more boring, but more honest in the Soho district near the 99th tunnel, and started leaving work at 6, as if I were giving someone the key and the light carcass. We hugged quickly and correctly. She went to sniff out avocados, and I went to get cheap store-bought pilaf, which always makes something homemade. Autumn in Seattle smells of wet leaves and bus brakes. I replaced the curtains in the apartment, bought a normal humidifier, hung the bag hook by the door only 7 minutes, and life became smoother. He stuck 3 notes on the refrigerator. Water. Immediately. Comments on the internet. Never after 22 o'clock. Call mom on Tuesdays. Funny. But it works. There's a small door closer on the door to keep it from slamming. It closes quietly, the way you want stories to close. In the winter, I received a letter from Erin, without any preface, just a photo of her badge from the clinic and the caption, "I passed the last module. Thank you for not keeping it then." I reply, "I'm proud of you." Put a smiley face with a mug, and put the phone face down. Sometimes she sends a short "How's the Pixel?" and I reply, "She's grumbling at the vacuum cleaner." As usual, this is a communication layer that doesn't bite off chunks of memory. In parallel, small repairs took place in life. My friend Don moved to Rain Valley, and we installed lights for neighbors once a month, then accepted cupcake payments. Min's neighbor from the floor below brought a box of extra duplicate keys to the playground. In any other country, this would sound strange. But in our entrance it meant that it was easier for people to breathe when there was someone to call. I started writing a small column in the district newspaper. Practical heat, where to put the hook so that the backpack would no longer be the center of the room, how to ask a neighbor for a drill and return it on time without feeling guilty, why sorry to distract you sometimes gets in the way. The most amazing thing, as it turned out, is that finals don't like drumming. They love a warm lamp that lights up at the first click. The last time Erin and I saw each other was at the mailboxes downstairs, she with a dog under funny shoes, I with a package from Trader Joe's. I asked, looking at her door. "Yes," she smiled. "The best upgrade of this year." We wished each other a good evening and went into our own light. Now my days count differently. On Saturdays, the Capitol Hill Market. In the evenings, cursive rain and a book on the windowsill. Pixel arrives exactly when I take out the blanket and lies down as if he has long known where to go to sleep. I'm going to the climbing wall again, without ambition, just to burn my head off. Sometimes I take out insurance from new people and say the same words that Erin once told me. "You'll get used to it." If I were asked how this story ended, I would say, not a dot, but a proper door with a door closer. It closes softly, without a pop, and normal things remain behind it. A schedule, a cat, a job, a couple of habits that make the day livable. And in front of her is me, who finally knows how to turn off notifications, turn on the lamp, and tell myself the simple, now important thing: I'm here. And that's enough. The laundry door closer was ridiculously heavy in the bag. The piece of iron always weighs more than its meaning. I brought it to Armitage in the afternoon. when the cars were rustling through the slush and the smell of warm bread came from a nearby cafe. The owner's name is Donia Marta, a short woman with perpetually pinned hair. She's had the laundry for 20 years, back when Logan Square was more about polish signs than oatmeal lattes. Is that so the door won't scream anymore? What is it? She asked, squinting at the box. Yes, if you don't mind, I'll put it on. Cotton blows out heat from the street, and you have a constant draft at the cash register. I don't mind. She waved her hand. If it gets worse, we'll take it off. While I was marking the holes, the door was slammed every 2 minutes. Someone came out with a bag. Someone came in for a change. Next to me, a 10-year-old Beau was waiting for his mom to finish washing, flipping through a comic book and watching my every move as if I were assembling a robot transformer. I screwed on the door closer, pushed the door a couple of times, and it went away smoothly. It's beautiful, Martha said, and ran her palm over the box, as if it were a cake after icing. And be quiet. They'll say thank you at night. I took out a transparent pocket from my backpack, a stapler, a cardboard box. The one if you don't have enough, take it. If you don't have enough, leave it, and another. New one. Ads are short. There are a dozen blank cards and a pencil under it. Martha made a skeptical sound. Just without politics. Only useful things, I promised. A week later, in the pocket with the coins, there was another roll with a blue elastic band and a note in a child's handwriting. Return 3. Found under the car. And on the ads for short there were 3 cards. I'll give you the children's mittens read at the checkout. I need a screwdriver for the evening. I'll return it. I'm looking for a partner for a morning job. Slowly, the last one made me smile. Meanwhile, at work, they gave me a project that would have made my ear ring earlier. Urgently needed. Now I suggested it myself. Let's make checklists in case of falls. They're understandable, so that anyone on duty can handle it, even if they forgot their coffee. The manager was surprised, but agreed. I wrote the instructions in human language, without escalate and synergize, printed them out, and hung them over the desk on duty. The first incident passed without a tantrum, and it was that rare victory after which you don't want to post a picture in a chat, you just want to go to bed on time. In the evening, I received a text from Meg. M has a preview at the theater on Saturday. If you want, he'll leave you a ticket at the door. No strings attached. I reread how the address is checked before sending money. I knew I was coping, but I sat down anyway and honestly asked myself, why are you going? The answer came out simple. To support the work of a man whom I respected and respect. Not the past, but the work. On Saturday, I went to the back door on Damon. It smelled of dust from the wings and coffee from a cheap car. The play was called The Third Shift. The actors spoke in the voices of people who live between night and day. Nurses, baristas, cleaners, dispatchers. In one scene, the heroine whispered into the phone, "I'll come only when it's quiet," and the audience chuckled recognizably. I didn't look for Emily with my eyes. I heard her by her movement. How she sets up the props. How she pauses in the dark. After bowing, I left a small package on the forward table, a pack of plastic ties and electrical tape with a note just in case, and left without looking for anyone. It was humid outside, and the city sounded muffled, like a hall after a light. An hour later, it came. Thanks for the screeds. They're working, without a signature, and that was enough for me. The snowfall hit us in the middle of the week, lashing obliquely, sticking to our sleeves, and turning the footpaths into mashed potatoes. On the same evening, a panic appeared in the district chat. Who has an extension cord? We have elderly people. The lights were turned off for 3 hours. I took mine, a thermos, and a couple of carriers and went to the laundry room. Martha had an outlet that I didn't mind. We set up a charging station on the table, and I stuck a piece of paper on the door. Phones take 15 minutes each. So are the heroes. People came in silence, nodded. Someone left cookies. Someone. Another extension cord. The boy with the comic book proudly held the queue, like a dispatcher at an airport. By 10 o'clock it was light. We had the wires hooked up, and Martha shoved a bag of still warm empanadas into my hands. Out the door, she said. She's like a human being now. It doesn't scare you. On such evenings, you feel the city not with quotes, but with your hands. Emily and I crossed paths a couple more times. Once at the post office she got a package with posters. I got a bill from the dentist. The second time at Jewel Osco, again at the shelves with filler. A tall man in a beige hat stood next to her and held a leash. A dog in ridiculous boots was splashing on the wet floor. Emily saw me and smiled without awkwardness. "It's Sam," she said simply. "We are together in the workshop of light." "Hi," said Sam. The voice is calm. The grip on the leash is such that the dog feels that it is being held, not pulled. We exchanged a few phrases about the weather and salt, and parted the way adults should part, without checking the pulse of the past. At home, I habitually turned on the kettle, hung my hat on the hook, and suddenly realized with relief that no additional work was required for the heart. Friday's half-hour of silence turned into a small circle in the library, Armitage. I hung up a card once every 2 weeks, we read short texts and learned to speak shorter. 5 people came: Mina, the neighbor who fixes bicycles in the living room, Derek, the guy who always carries a backpack, the teacher from the second block, who is tired of long letters from her parents, and the same boy from the laundry turned out to be 10. He is 12, and he loves comics and writing about snow, as about the evil boss from the game. We read the laundry ads, the do not clap signs, and other people's return 3 notes, laughed, and searched for phrases that we would not be ashamed to leave on the door. It sounds ridiculous, but it makes the house quieter. One day, after a muck, a woman in her 60s, neat, wearing lace-up woolen mittens, came up to me. "Did you fix the laundry?" she asked. "A little," I replied. "Thanks. Now I take my granddaughter there with books. We don't flinch at the door." I nodded. The words were simple, but underneath they were something like "so it's not in vain." Closer to spring, I took on another small project. I painted a strip on the threshold of the laundry room with white paint. There was always a stumble. Gray concrete in a gray floor. You can't see the border. I bought a stencil with an arrow, wrote "Stet" bold and childish. The next day, Tim brought a sticker with a zipper and stuck it next to it. Plus speed. Martha sighed, but she didn't pull away. We completed the checklists at work, and I insisted on a quiet channel called "No Mentions After 8. On the very first evening, one colleague wrote there at 8:37 a.m., and another replied at 7:05 a.m. "I see. I'm doing it." The channel has survived, so are we. Over the weekend, I walked along the river again to Kimball, then turned off at 606. The wind was at his back, a rare Chicago generosity. I took out my phone and wrote in my notes, "Arriving on time is also a job. Not for fasting, not for anyone, but for me." I saved and put my phone away. At home, I put a new bag of garbage in the bucket. It turned out to be nice to take out the old one right away, not to save up. Put the kettle on, check the door closer. The door went softly, as it should. There was a card from the laundry on the table. "I need a screwdriver for the evening. I'll return it." I put my screwdriver next to it and wrote, "Take it, return it before 21 o'clock, April 1a. At 20:55 they called. The guy in the knitted hat held out the instrument with 2 hands like a ticket. "Thank you," he said. "Your door closes really well." "Thanks," I replied. "It's her job now." He nodded, and everything fell into place. On the scale of a house, a street, a week. I turned off the lights halfway, as I like, and caught the same level. Not holiday, not accident, but on business. I sat on the edge of the table, blew on the tea, and said out loud exactly what has been keeping me on course for a long time: "I'm here. And that's enough." In the spring, we completed something that we hadn't been able to get around to all the time. The library has collected a thin brochure. One phrase from our meetings, without authors. Practical warmth. The print run is ridiculous. It was printed on a risograph at the school club. They were distributed around the area. In a stack in Martha's laundry room, in a cafe by the window, in a box for free, at the community center. People took it. Someone had put pencil ticks in the margins. The highest one was "Near doors should close softly. Conversations too." In the laundry room, life lived on its own. Someone carefully replaced the pocket with coins with a laminated one, and a second, green elastic band appeared next to it. The announcements were short. "Thanks for the stripe on the step. No one else is flying." Tim brought his mother's stapler and deftly replaced the blunted staples. The door opened smoothly, as if it had always been that way. A newsletter came from work. Our checklists were sent to neighboring teams. "Copy, if you want to breathe." The manager only wrote "Nice work," without emoticons, and for some reason that's exactly what I wanted to see. A photo from the stage came from Meg. Lanterns, a square marked on the floor, black tape with a snake. Em went on tour for 6 weeks. She asked me to tell you. The screeds helped out. I reply, "Good luck," and lie, put the phone screen down and went to the window to top up the Monstera water. The entrance has long been asking for a night light on the sensor so as not to stumble. I bought two, screwed them on in the evening, and stretched out an extension cord. A day later, a note appeared on the door in someone else's handwriting. Thank you for the light. There were no signatures, and they were not required. On Saturday, I went to Martha to give her a screwdriver. A neighbor from the ads for short asked her, poured water into the cooler, wiped the crumbs at the table. Martha said, "Do you hear?" It became quiet. I listened, but there really was no door slamming. There was the usual noise of cars and the light rustle of drums, like rain on a roof. At home, I put the kettle on, checked how my door closes, softly, without clicking. I took the last card of the brochure out of the stack and glued it to the inside of the kitchen cabinet, where the cereals are. Enough is enough when you want to continue. While the glue was setting, I turned off the overhead light, left the small one in the hallway, and sat on the edge of the table with a mug. There was a whiff of warm bread from the street, a parking door slammed somewhere, and someone laughed upstairs. I caught my usual level. Not holiday or accident, but on business, and said it out loud as calmly as always, "I'm home. That's enough." Then he finished his tea, put the mug in the cupboard, right under the cart, and turned off the light.